Hello and welcome everyone to another Nature Mystic discussion. We have our teacher Don Zane Kerfman, and we'll be talking about the paths of the Mesa, which really kind of is the blueprint of how we move through the work throughout the apprenticeship work.
Yeah. It's the Mesa is both a reflection of ourselves and a reflection of the work itself, and how we're moving through it. And there's many different types of mesas. I want to just say that from the beginning. Many mesas, many mishas, which is the Quechua word for it, which means symbol. Misha kepe is this little thing, the bundled mesa. So there's many different ways of going about the mesa, but they all have three sides, regardless of the tradition in the Andes. Doesn't matter if you're talking with the Kayawaya of Bolivia or you're talking with the Huchameros up in the northern coastal region. They all mesas have three sides, which are like three fields of energy, and they're related, of course, to the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world. So that all that information is encoded in our mishas. And like I often tell people, we're learning um, how to interact with our pachas first. And pacha means space time or worlds first. Even though we are learning to connect with the greater, well, let me kind of go back. We're learning first to work with Huiracocha and Pachamama, and they are teaching us how to flow energy. And those flows of energy lead us to perfecting our ability to navigate our three worlds, our upper world, our middle world, and our lower world, which once we are able to navigate that efficiently, we can step into the greater cosmic pachas and into other people's pachas. So we're able to step into someone else's upper world or someone else's middle world or someone else's lower world, and to help change things or to help modify energies there.
Very good.
There we go. Just updating things on across the platform. So listening.
That's all right. That's absolutely all right. I'm just taking a pause because I'm waiting for some direction here.
Yeah.
Right?
While we're waiting for that direction, for anybody who is from seeing our streams, if you have any questions about anything we've talked about in the past, any question is fair game. It doesn't have to be the topic for today. And the other thing is, starting in April, we have our apprenticeship starting where Zane will be teaching 7 weekends, once a month, where we'll be meeting and going on nature excursions and doing initiation. So if you're interested in actually kind of setting foot on this path, that opportunity is coming up in April, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in our conversation too.
Yeah, absolutely. So the three sides of the mesa, we see them running both vertically and horizontally through our fields. And they relate to those three pachas we were talking about. The Hanak Pacha, which is a world of super refined energy, we might think of it as a saintly world. Um, I don't want to get really metaphysical or really new agey, but the world of the ascended masters, the angelic realm, and all of that. And it has a super refined energy. Then we have this world. In this world, we get to reciprocate or not. We're learning Aini in this world. The upper world is a perfect world of Aini. This world is not so perfect. We are learning how to beautify. That's really our purpose here, is to beautify and to transform our lives so that we give back more than we end up taking in the end of our life. We give back a great gift that changes all of reality forever. And then the Uhu Pacha is this dense realm. And there, the energy exchange is different than even here in the Kai Pacha. There, we say everything is like Hucha, everything's like heaviness. And we're learning through these three paths, we really are learning how to navigate the energetic environment of the three worlds. In the lower world, there's no Aini. In the lower world, everything is Chalai. And Chalai is this concept that is closer to mercantile exchange. Sometimes, especially in our tradition, somebody will say, Well, I need an INI exchange to do that for you. Or, paying this amount for my course is the INI you're paying for this. That's not really true. That's the energetic exchange of the lower world. The middle world and the upper world are all about INI, and INI is a little bit different. So Chow Yai energy doesn't move until you pay for it. And then it only moves for a split second at the time of paying. And that's it. There's no more exchange. The exchange is very short, very sweet. Boom, yours, mine, bye. INI is something that goes on forever. INI is something that continues to flow. INI doesn't have a breakdown, doesn't have now you paid for this, now you get this. The idea of INI is whatever you put forward, you get that and abundance back. More, that and more you get back. And what's giving you that and more gets that and more back from you. So that's the concept of INI. And that's what we're really learning through the 3 paths of the Mesa, is how we can perfect our INI in the pachas that we live in. So one of the ways we can see the pachas is our personal pacha anyway, is that we are also stratified in 3. We have this world of high ideals and, beautiful saintly energy. And we have this world in the middle, and we have this world underneath. And they really correspond well to the early psychoanalyst and the psychology of Freud and Jung. The upper world is like the superego, the middle world is like the ego, and the lower world is like the id. And so we're learning through these 3 paths, we're learning how to have harmonious relationships with the id side of ourselves, how to have harmonious relationships with the ego side of ourselves, how to have harmonious relationships with the superego side of ourselves. And we sometimes pick energetic favorites. We think, oh, it's all about that superego. It's all about that high idealism. Well, that high idealism, if it's not grounded in some way, it's like a kite without a guide wire. And I was just talking about this with one of my classes recently. And that kite without a guide wire, sure, a big burst of wind could hit a kite and blow it high into the sky. But without the guide wire, it just starts to spin and it's going to crash back into the earth. And this is like people who have awakened spiritually and they get really idealistic and they get so full of exuberance for what they have just got that they lose connection to reality itself. And they cease to have a strong, firm grip on reality, and you'll see them lose their way. They're no longer able to function in this world. They're no longer able to bring forth something useful because they are so enamored with the idealism. And when that idealism cannot be manifested, they lose their momentum, their forward momentum altogether, and oftentimes go into a very dark night of the soul. Some never recover from that. So in our tradition, we're always about bridging the 2. We're the marriage of heaven and hell, or the marriage of earth and heaven. And in that marriage, we bring forth a brand new quality. And then that quality is just perfect for this middle world. So in our work, we have the left side of the Mesa, which in Spanish is understood as campo ganadero. And it basically means the field of gain. It's the field where we achieve something. It's the field of magic. It's where we take mystical knowledge that we've experienced and we turn it into therapies, and we turn it into ways that it can be manifested in our life, ways that we can manifest those mystical experiences and make practical use of them in our life. Along with that, we have a lot of seashells on the left side of the Mesa, because those are, and we have knives and we have sharp crystals and stuff, because those are what we call the Gentile table. The left side is another name for it. But in that left side is where we go to war, where we go to spiritual war with things. And spiritual war with things isn't exactly fighting, but sometimes it is. It's actually, how do we mediate the energy? How do we mediate? Because that left side is connected to the Uhupacha, or the lower world. And in the lower world, they have not learned Aini yet. They have not learned this divine reciprocity. So things are very short and sweet. Things are very contractual. Things are very like this for me, that for you. Bam, it's over. We're done. And so we have to learn to operate in that way, to sometimes do battle with our own demons. And by doing battle, it isn't like what we sometimes think. It's not like we're trying to obliterate them, where it's more like a contest, to do a contest with them so that we understand them better and can eventually elevate those things so that they can serve a practical purpose in our lives instead of a obstruction in our life. Then I'm going to jump over to the right side. I keep looking over at my Mesa. Here, I maybe I'll share it with everyone if they can see it here. I'm not sure if you can, but it's over there. But anyway, so we learn on the right side of the Mesa. That's all about personality. That's where and we call it the Campo Justiciero, which means the field of justice. And the field of justice is where we connect with that higher idealistic plane of existence, where we can bring through brand new ideas, brand new inspirations for them to be mediated in this middle world, for them to be translated in this middle world. It's a field of luck and a field of prosperity in a way. It has a whole lot of power, and it's all about how do we reach up? How do we reach out from the limited view we have of reality and reach to something greater, something bigger? And then we have in the middle the Campo Medio, which is the field of mediation or the field of harmonization. It's the field where we learn to take the aspects of the left and the aspects of the right, and we learn to merge them together so that we can walk the path of like the sainted healer. So we can walk a path so that we know when to apply the mystical knowledge and when to apply the magical knowledge to move us forward in life.
Very good. We did have a question from Judy, but I'll give a moment for if Melissa has anything or anything else comes of that before I read the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm good and kind of like, yep, I remember that from class. I remember that from class.
And it's important to understand that those three sides of the Mesa, being three sides of ourself and three sides of reality, they are also three individual approaches to the work of elevation, to the work of transformation, to the work of becoming something in this world. There are three different philosophies or perspectives of that work. The left side is all power. The right side is all personality. If you meet people who are completely left-sided, because there are priests that are completely left-sided, they usually have power. They have the power to manifest, but they don't have the power to sustain manifestation. They don't usually have the power to organize their own life, because that's something that's weak in them, is the organizational part of it. So they have the power to lift themselves and others up temporarily, but they don't have the guidance system that will allow them to reach the heights that they're trying to get to. Oftentimes, drug abuse, alcoholism, all of these things are pitfalls of the left side because it's the side of power. We get seduced if we're overbalanced on the power side. We get seduced really easily by power. And because we haven't brought in the illuminating light to see our shadows for what they are, that comes from the right side of the Mesa, because we don't have that illumination going on within us, we are unconscious of internal drives, very unconscious of it. So there are people who develop a lot of spiritual power in this life, but they don't develop the ethics or the morality to use it wisely. Because spiritual power is no reflection of the moral standing of the individual.
Good thing to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The question from Judy was, where do we experience the upper world and the lower world in this world? Or alternatively, where do the three worlds intersect?
They intersect right here. They intersect within you. The upper world is everything outside of the skin of your bubble to the skin of your bubble. The middle world is everything from the skin of your bubble to the skin of your body. And the lower world is everything from the skin of your body inward. That's one of the designations. So we are made, and it's really interesting. It's kind of a folly in a way of explaining it, but it's really interesting because we in this tradition understand that we are tritary. It's not like the Christian Trinity, but we are tritary. And what I mean by that is, so we have this um, energy field that's around us. And that energy field is where we're really learning to perfect our Aini. That's where we're really learning how to function within Aini and to bring through those energies. Then we have our physical body, our hanchi. And our hanchi is where we take actions, where we make our Aini. It's like where we do the hard work. We learn it out here, then we do the hard work with our body out here, and then and this energy field around us is our soul body. This physical body is our physical body, and then within us is something called the muhu koya, or the muhu inca, and it means the seed of the king or queen. And it tells us that every human has the birthright and the ability within one lifespan to develop the dignity of a king or a queen. Now, what's that really mean? It means, in our tradition, it refers to the first glowing one, which was Pachakutik Inca, and that he had the ability to eventually create a bioluminescence around him that made people, the generals and the mayors of Cusco, take him as an authority, even though he wasn't 20 years old yet and had never seen war, to take him as a war chief, where before they thought of him as just some, little kid that didn't know what he was doing. When he returned to them and he was glowing with light that everyone could see no matter their level of consciousness, that gave them the ability to trust his leadership and to allow him to lead. Now, he was never supposed to become Inca. The firstborn son of Huaracocha Inca was supposed to be the next Inca. And they left Cusco when this war was getting ready to happen. I think it was with the Chancas tribe, which was a powerful warring tribe that was just conquering nation after nation. And the Inca was the next one. And they fled to the southern part of the empire, hoping that maybe they could make a last-ditch effort to save it after Cusco was conquered. But Cusco was never conquered because Pachacuti was able to rally the trust and the support of these warriors and these generals and these mayors because of a physical light that people could see, a bioluminescence. What our tradition says is if one person can do it, all people can do it. Now, that doesn't mean that all people have the same qualities or the same gifts, but it does. But we do say that every person has within the seed of potential the ability to create light within themselves in one lifetime. And that means they have the ability to redistribute all the living energies of their universe so well that those energies interacting around them become a physical form of light that other people can see. So we say that every human has that. Now, the level right before that is the level of the infallible healer. So even before you glow, you could reach the level of the infallible healer where your resonance is so pristine, your frequency is so divine that with a touch of the hand, and probably not even a touch of the hand, we have stories of Christ in the Bible where the woman just knows if she touches the hem of his garment, she's going to be perfectly healed, and she was. Without him even knowing she was going to touch him, and he turns around and says, "Who touched me?" Who did that? But she was perfectly healed in that moment. And this is the type of quality we think of associated with the fifth level beings, that their refined energy is such of a high vibration that they can heal everyone every time of everything with nothing more than a touch of the hand. No prayer to the divine, no energy running, nothing like that. Just the touch of the hand has such a quality that they are perfectly healed. Then we have the fourth level, which is a level that we can teach. And the level I teach at, I take people to the fourth level, and that's the level of harmony. That's the level where we get beyond the polarity dynamic and we're able to use polarity and opposition to create more and greater harmonies in the world. And I just think, yeah, those higher levels above the fourth level are beautiful, but I really believe every human can reach the fourth level in this lifetime. And if we all can vibrate or tune ourselves to that fourth level, we would drastically change the world. We would enter a new golden age. Heck, if even half of us were able to do it, or a quarter of us, we would probably enter a new golden age. And that's something very important to think about, is that has that much power to transform the reality we live in. I got a little off of the subject of the three paths of the Mesa, though, but it's all related.
That was a really good question and a great answer. Anybody else have questions or comments or anything at all while we have Zane here? Because he's not always able to join us on Thursday. We have been very lucky the last couple of weeks, especially me when it was all by myself and Melissa was off having her travels and the jump shows and everything. But we got Zane again. So if you have questions, comments,
I'll just continue with that question because it has a lot of potential for answering.
Okay. Well, let me read that again real quick, just in case some of you came in. The question that we're responding to is, where do we experience the upper world, the lower world in this one? Or alternatively, where do the three worlds intersect?
Yeah, so another thing is a cave. You go into a cave, you're automatically in the lower world. Just by going into the cave, you go to a high mountain, you're automatically so close to the upper world that you are absorbed in its energy, just those natural sites. But there are other sites, and the biggest one that we know of, like commonly in America, is a place like Sedona, Arizona. So in those places where there's these vortexes and vortices, and vortexes and vortices are often seen as spinning in two different ways. One spins clockwise, one spins counterclockwise. And we can understand that kind of like our toilet flushing, So here in the Northern Hemisphere, you flush your toilet, it spins a certain direction, and that's energy going down. That means that there is a connection in a place where there is a vortex like that. There is a connection of energy coming from the upper world. And it means that we are in a place where the upper and middle world intersect. Now, in Peru, these places were marked by huacas. Because they were a natural huaca. You can also make man-made huacas. And a man-made huaca would be like a church. And it doesn't matter the denomination or a temple or anything else. It could be the most bigoted church in the world. It could be, the congregation could be hateful. The preacher could be hateful and single-minded. And still, because of the work that's done, because of the work of praise and the work of love, and that there is that element to it, that eventually creates a connection between the upper world and this world. And it doesn't matter the quality of the people worshiping. It's just the fact that they are worshiping. Just the fact they're worshiping will start to create a man-made huaca in that place. Right? And every church, every temple, everything, if the people are really about it, if they're really worshiping, and like I said, it doesn't matter if they're single-minded or they're of a very fundamentalist sect that think that their way is the only right way. In all those places, just the fact that they're interacting with the spiritual world in that way creates that downward flow of energy. And then there's just places that when you go there, you feel strong, right? You just start to feel really strong and powerful in certain places. And those are places where the energy's coming up from the lower world. Our prophecy says that eventually the energies of the lower world will spill out into the middle world, and the energy of the upper world will spill out into the middle world, and we will be in a brand new world, a brand new place of being. And of course, we play that out in our mesas, which we see as the kausai puklei, which is the game of life. So our mesa is a reflection of ourself and nature and all of the elements that we're made of. And by moving things around it and by honoring certain places on it in these three fields or these three paths, we actually change the dynamics of the energy of our life. We can actually use it like a board game to navigate through life, to bring in certain qualities, to release certain qualities. There's all kinds of movements that we can do within the Mesa fields that changes the perception or the experience of our energy.
Question for you, since you mentioned Sedona and vortexes and vortices, could you explain, besides the clockwise spinning, what exactly is their function? A vortex and vortice.
Well, what's the function of an energy center on your body? You know,
Okay.
what is it? It's a place where the energies are necessary to move through. Just like there's places on Earth that are committed to death and hardship. There are places that are naturally unhospitable for life. Those need to be there. Those kinds of energies are supposed to be there. We're not supposed to, because it's necessary for the being that is Mama Ipa, the earth. She needs these energy centers. They're like places where she takes breaths in or she releases something. And it's part of her communication with the other elements or the other spiritual dimensions, because she's a person. She's not a deaf, dumb, blind rock that just is in some kind of orbit by happenstance. These energies moving through her are how she stays in orbit, is how she has relationships with the other planetary bodies, because they're not strangers to each other. They're a big family. They all have a certain type of quality and energy that they're sharing with one another, you know. So it is those strings of relationship that she has. And we don't even need to understand it beyond that, because it's not, it's just like, first understand why you have energy centers in your body. And really, in the end, all understanding falls short, because it's not about understanding. It's about being in the experience of the now. And when we, like I often say, it's all about being in the flow, not in the know. As we try to concrete and reduce something to a perfect understanding, we often lose the magic of it. That's why I personally believe spirituality and science will never completely merge. They will be merged in a dynamic, but I don't believe they'll ever completely merge, at least not the way they are now. And that's because science is all about the understanding of the mechanics of something and reliability. And spirituality is much more free flowing than that. And even though they overlap sometimes, like I tell people, quantum physics is not an explanation of what is going on spiritually. It's a metaphor. If we're using it spiritually, we're using it at best as a metaphor. We should not say, well, this is the way it is. It runs by this. It's easier if we use that as a metaphor to explain it. But even that, quantum physics, like I was saying on SOAR last night, quantum physics was only taken serious when it became quantum mechanics. Because really, and most scientists don't put a lot of weight into it because it's not observable at the practical reality level. And because of that, they see it as more of a pseudoscience. It's more of a philosophy or a theory. It's more theoretical and philosophical than it is concrete and scientific.
Very good. Thank you for that. And Judy was just responding to your answer. Wow, that's amazing, giving us a lot to think about. I love, like, just a simple, easy question just turns into so much when you ever ask Zane. It's so good. Thank you so much for that.
Zane, I remember in class when we were going over the three paths, the three sides, the importance of standing in the middle, and working from that stance. And you gave examples of relatively recent, living people or recently past examples of what happens when you're too much on either side. And, I thought maybe that could be, a good example to give today.
Yeah, so the right side of the mesa, the Campo Justicero, is the side of illumination, and it's the mystical path. And mystics often, mysticism can become an escape from reality. It really can be, where someone works so hard at attaining a particular state of mind, a particular quality of energy, that they abandon all other qualities of energy in life completely. And they just want to be in that quality all the time. And in that quality of energy, they usually don't fear anything. They're not wanting for anything. They're just really at one with everything. But at one with everything brings nothing back to everyone else. And we often say that someone who is unbalanced in that way is traveling the path of slow suicide. Because what they're really wanting to do is just quit being alive. They're really wanting to be in those idealistic worlds that are not this world. They're wanting to revel in that upper world energy and forget this world altogether. So they become ungrounded. And there's some powers that come with that way of going about things. But in the end, it's not a path of power. And their ceremonies and stuff start to become dry and dead. They start to, you sit there and there's beauty to the ceremony, but there's no energy in it. There's no life to it. It doesn't affirm your life or anything. You can see the beauty. You can see the mathematical precision in it. You can see the rationale, but you miss out on other things. The left side, like I was saying before, is a side of power. It's a path of power where you take that mystical experience that you can have on the right side and you can translate it into power to transform your life in ways to embody that wisdom in the here and now, so that you can help other people, so that you can offer something meaningful to the world. But someone who's unbalanced in that side is someone like Charlemagne in history. Another person that we could look at that was unbalanced that way, that will really hit a chord with everyone, is Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was probably one of the most powerful magicians of recent times. Was very, very well developed on the left side. But because he hadn't had the illuminating power and the organizing structure of the right side, he was not able to clearly see the shadow aspects of himself, or to even care that they were there. And thus his biases, his hatred, and his wounding from early in his life became the organizing structure for the power that he was able to wield. In this way, he was seduced by the power, and he had the potential to create amazing things. But instead of creating amazing things, he created horrific things in this world. And that's one of the ways that we can see that side of the path. And then in the middle is where we're all trying to get to, but we have to have a little bit of development in the other two to really step into the middle. Most people are either we would call them panak, or we would call them yoki. Or another way we would say it is they're right-sided or they're left-sided. They're the mystic or they're the magician. And then the middle path is where we learn to bridge the two together within us, where we learn to stand in harmony between those two polarities. And when we stand in harmony, then we're in the place of true power, where we have all of the organizational structure to work with and all of the mystical experience, and we have all of the power. And then it becomes an art. Then we are artfully all the time weaving together those two paths with everyone we're talking to and everyone that we're working with. And we are learning through an empathetic connection with them what is the correct medicine at the time. Now, the correct medicine at the time does not always mean that it perfects the person's life or makes their life easier. The correct medicine can throw your entire life into upheaval sometimes as well, because something so drastically needs to change to embody that transformation in you that it forces change within the reality that you're experiencing, or within your emotions, or within the way you think.
Very good. So if that prompts any additional questions or comments. No, oh, there's a comment. Let's see. No, it wasn't a question. but it's all, walking that middle path. I think a lot of different traditions talk about how the path narrows, and being able to be in that center, both in the worlds in a sense and within the polarity, is an art of congruency.
Yeah. I mean, all traditions kind of have that middle path. In the Kabbalist tradition, we see that as the three pillars of Kabbalah, where you have the left side, which is the pillar of severity, and you have the right side, which is the pillar of mercy. And then you have the middle side, which is the pillar of mildness, and it's from a different culture. And of course, there's different qualities that go along with that cultural expression of it that shouldn't just be glossed over, as it sounds like I'm doing, but it's a different way of perceiving the same information. But to be able to do that, we have to be able to walk on all three sides. We have to not pick an energetic favorite, because there are times and places where we abandon all the right-hand side and we only practice the left for something, because our wisdom of the middle tells us that. And the wisdom of the middle tells us, oh no, for this period of time, or for this group, I'm going to abandon that left side, because they are so weak on organizational structure. They're so weak on the basics of what helps us to ascend. And by ascension, I don't mean the New Age idea of ascending, but I mean ascending the ladder of consciousness.
And, and I think it's important to say, like, this is why you'll hear Hank and I say every time we do this, we do it over and over again, because each time this apprenticeship comes, like, you learn more about yourself in the different sides and how to interact. And it's like you get new little tools from each side and or a new understanding with it. So, and why it's such a long apprenticeship, because it's a lot to take in. It's not a weekend, like, boom, now you're a shaman, have a great day. So, despite
we have to be wary of that path. And what I mean by that is, I don't think that the teachers who teach that way are necessarily bad teachers or anything like that, but they aren't giving the aspirant, the initiate, the time to develop what's beautiful inside of them. They're not giving them the time to discover themselves. What they're doing is usually more based on that chalyai that we were talking about of the lower world. It's more based on the instant gratification that they can give the people who come to them to fill the class. If I give them this instant gratification and say, yeah, you've got it all now, that rewards their idea of themselves that makes them feel really high, and it makes them feel really powerful really quick, and it makes them think, oh yeah, everything I already thought is absolutely right. I didn't have any work to do. All I needed was the certificate from sitting through the course. And in that way, it becomes more about a mercantile exchange, and it becomes more about business than really developing something beautiful within the person, and developing and helping them to um, develop the capacity to create beauty outside of themselves. And that's what the path is about. And there's no shortcuts to that. Yeah, we're all strong in certain ways. We all have certain strengths, but there is a reason why we need a spiritual teacher. And that's why these traditions exist this way, and why we have to pay homage and really work with our spiritual teacher for a long time, is because it's about relationship. It's about growing a relationship. And growing a relationship with your spiritual teacher is not the same thing as growing a relationship with someone else. A spiritual community is something totally different than the community, you know? It's not, and people often get that confused. They think, oh, you're going to always hang out every day with your teacher, and you're going to get and there is some forms of social intimacy that happens. You get to know each other, and really it is a friendship. It is a friendship because you know each other that well. But it's not like, hey, let's go to the club this weekend together, and hey, let's do this. No, a spiritual community has to hold itself to a certain bar, which means if we gather, we're going to gather for spiritual reasons. If we gather, it's to do the work. And the work is about elevating the self or elevating others, healing. It's very particular. And if we let that get twisted up with other things, other ideas of life and stuff, if we are not really good with our boundaries with the spiritual community, it loses the ability to create transformation in people's lives.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I will say, like, Hank, you and I probably talk way more. I know we talk way more often than like Zane and I, but I know if I'm like, Zane, this is what's going on, I'm too in the middle of it, I can't quite grasp it, like, Zane will respond. Could do the same thing with Hank, and Hank and I call one another out all the time, be it, energetically or just for shits and giggles, because it's different. Like, we're equals, whereas Zane is the teacher. So it's that level of respect that you keep, and then anybody below us, and that sounds bad, right? Not below, but like student, there would be that line.
Well, there's a very clear-cut dynamic that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And the dynamic is not about having power over. That's something that is more of the Western culture, what we call the conquering lion, which is stomping everything out, creating a sense of equality, but through creating a very tiered hierarchical thing. And it's not really about that. It's about respect, the energy of respect. And that's very necessary within our spiritual work. It's very necessary to develop respect. It's necessary to develop respect and authority, even to sometimes do things not because you think they're going to help you, but because someone told you because your teacher told you to do this. You might say, well, I don't see any purpose in that whatsoever. I did something like that last year. Well, go ahead and give your teacher the benefit of the doubt and jump back into it, because these things aren't about doing them one time and it's done. It's not about getting the certificate on your wall and now you're perfected and you have everything you ever need. In fact, I wish all courses would throw away certificates. I think they're pretty much useless. Who needs another piece of paper adorning you and telling you you're something? If you don't feel like you're that inside, that piece of paper will never make you that. So it's really about developing that quality within you. That's what's inside of this muhu koya. And for it to sprout, for it to develop, it requires that we learn how to have proper relationships in our social field, proper relationships with nature, proper relationships with our own bodies, with our own emotions, with our own thoughts, and proper relationships with spirituality. And when we start to have those proper type of relationships where we can get and give respect, because respect is mutual. I have the highest respect for every person who comes to me that becomes one of my students. I never look at them really as students. You know how I see everyone? I see everyone as coming down a path, and I'm just like an older brother who went to college first. So I know the lay of the land, and I can just show you that. So that's the only respect that I want from those who come to me, is the respect that they understand that I went down this path earlier than them, and I can make sure that they don't have the pitfalls and the dead ends that can come up in this path. I can help them navigate those hard areas, because there's difficult times in this work. It's difficult because we're learning to know ourselves, and knowing the self is hard because that means you have to know everything. You don't just get to know the beauty and the perfumey side of yourself. You have to look into the mildew and the rot. And it's not, and you don't look into the mildew and rot to say, oh, that's terrible. You look into it to say, is this, you look into it so that you can say, this is me too. And then when you can say, this is me too, then it loses power over you. As long as you're denying something, as long as you're keeping it thirsty, it has power over you because it's driving for your attention. Once you realize and you recognize that it's there and you start to deliberately work with it, it loses that power over you. And then it can elevate, it can change, it can grow. But it doesn't grow by denying it's there. We have to be able to look at it. And then we grow in a holistic way where all sides of ourself grow together, not just high ideals that we go crazy over. And we're like, yes, I'm this, and I'm going to change the world. And it's all about this. And I can't wait. And it's my divine mission in life. And I've got to give everything to it. That will eat you alive and spit you out the other side. That mindset does not help you have a balanced life. And it doesn't help you stay in a healthy place because it's not grounded in this reality. Grounded in this reality, we have mildew and rot. The greatest fertilizer is leaf mold. Go out and it's just really leaves rotting. Yet it's one of the best fertilizers. Compost piles. We often talk about manure. Our excrement is poisonous to us. It is. It could kill you. Yet the second it touches the earth, it is sanctified and it becomes the fertilizer for new life. And that's how we have to look at things in our reality so that we can make practical use of it.
Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking about angel poop again. So,
oh yeah, angel poop. Gotta love the angel poop coming down. That was something the first time I ever heard that was from a colleague of mine, Elizabeth Jenkins. She described it that way, and it just stuck with me, and I loved it so much.
Wow, we're getting close to our hour end. So if you guys have any questions about anything you heard us talk about, or if you've been watching all of the videos and you feel, that it might be off topic, that is okay. Go ahead and ask. Everything is open book here. And since we don't get to pick Zane's brain very often, now is the time to ask.
So it seems to be more often nowadays, which is great. It's a wonderful treat every time we have you.
Well, don't
last call. Right. Oh, but underneath, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just thinking. I was just going to babble for a moment until I found myself somewhere.
Well, while you are about to find yourself, I just want to point out the link that I have scrolling, hanksettle.com/apprenticeship-program. Melissa will have this on her site too. I just put mine because I just made some changes to it. It has all the dates for the upcoming program. It has all the options where you can do a deposit and payments, break it up over 12 months or 7 months, all kinds of things. And if none of the options are fitting for you, reach out to me, because we do try to make it accommodating to everybody's situation. If you truly feel called for the path, we really would like to create something that is going to make it doable for you. So feel free to reach out and check out the website. But it starts in April. typically the third weekend of every month, with the exception of July. There's a break, and then we finish up in November. I think the second weekend. But it's all on my website, and it's about to all be on Melissa's website too. As soon as we get it updated.
Which
Yeah,
is
I'm
plain-
real excited about it. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say plan on being later today. Like I literally was getting the dates right before we hit the go live button. So
Yeah.
we'll be-
I'm so excited about this because since the pandemic, it's been it's been a while since we've done something like this in a longer localized setting. I mean, usually do about a week somewhere in Virginia where we do a week long retreat and we're all together. And that's another type of experience that's very beautiful because you're completely enveloped within a sacred community for that amount of time. I mean, I'm working on trying to find a way to do a month-long program like that, where we could all be together for a whole month and just really, because that's often how this tradition used to be taught back in the ancient days. Was there would be these month-long retreats that would go on, and then the next year you come for another month-long retreat, and it was type of Paco school, and that ended in I think about the 70s with Don Andres's Paco school when he died and no one took it over. So that was really one of the ways that this used to be done back in the past. But this gives us a whole different area, a whole different way of approaching it that is unique to the modern world, but in many ways appreciates the limited time that a person has. So there's an online portion of it. And unlike just a pure online program, it doesn't just have to be filled to the gills with a bunch of information all the time. But that helps to create community and helps to create a one-on-one connection, not just between me and the person, but also between the tradition and the person, which I'm just a representative for that tradition. And then there's those live meetings where we get together and we get to experience the community in a personal one-on-one level, which is really unique and really beautiful, especially the way that this type of hybrid program honors a person's time. It honors that you might not be able to have a month or a week to devote to learning, but you might have a couple hours a week that you can devote, and you might have a weekend a month that you can devote. And that really helps you to make the tradition your own, to really learn what's so important about this tradition, which is its ability to transform the quality of your life. I'm not saying you're going to get rich or anything like that, but it has the ability that no matter what does happen in your life, you are able to create well-being. And if you are able to create a sense of well-being, no matter the situation, then suddenly you are able to offer something meaningful to every situation. Blown out tire going down the highway, instead of becoming a tragedy that leads to all these stress hormones and everything else being released for a long period of time that causes a type of brain damage and all of that, instead of going through all of that, you can actually be in your sense of well-being and navigate from that place of power instead of a place of disempowerment. And that's really what the tradition's about. And as we're able to step more and more into our power, and we're able to grow that personal power, we become able to offer more and more to the world around us. And I just hope everyone joins and comes, because really, I want to show people that there is a grounded form of spirituality that doesn't take you away from your life. If you want to go out on the weekend with your friends and do some wild and crazy stuff, this path doesn't tell you you can't.
Your wild and crazy might end up being a despacho or something with the fire gods. So who knows? I mean,
yeah.
Well, in all the time I've worked with Zane, I think my trajectory is already this, but it really helped to fast track the ability to have life happen through me instead of to me, where no matter what happens, and it continues to be a constant elevation, even with tools and things can still blindside you because we're still being signaled to grow from the universe and everything, but the time it takes to navigate from being knocked off is reduced, and the ability to respond and navigate more quickly. I've just been on this constant evolution, so, personally, anyway, so I can speak to that. And I've been training with Zane for I don't even know how long. It's been a long time.
I think since about 2015, or was it 2016?
It was before that even, because we hosted you for 2-day workshops.
Yeah.
Leading into that, so it's probably 2000. Maybe I could even say I've been connected to Zane for at least a decade. I would say.
Wow.
Give or take.
Decades fly by these days. I don't know.
The days go by slow, the years quick.
About 2015, because the store moved to the current location in 2014.
There you go.
And I think I was there about a year when we started bringing Zane in.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's how I block my time. When did the store move? When did the fire?
Well, you have to have points of reference. I mean,
right.
Especially in this work and in life, because time doesn't exist in the way that we've been taught to believe it does. And if we don't have points of reference, time's just a slur. It's a slur of the constant now. And 20 years can fly by like that, or 20 minutes can creep by, and everyone's had both those experiences, I'm sure, if they've lived long enough, if they were fortunate enough to live long enough.
Flies by.
Time and with space is more of like plot points for coordination of experience, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I don't see anybody doing any final questions. We do have people saying thank you, Zane. We had Anna saying happy leap year. Any cool tidbit, random Zane knowledge about leap years? That might be a fun little note to end on.
I have nothing. I'm sorry.
Nothing. Oh man.
Except for it's
harder.
It just shows once again how we cannot even fit time and years into a convenient container. That at every step of the way, the universe is larger and bigger than what we can accept, or what we can understand, or what we can even know. So, and leap year is just one of those things. Daylight savings time is another one of those things that is just part of humanity's madness of trying to control something that needs no control.
There you go. Well, I like that answer anyway, even though it wasn't a random fact. That was good. For that matter, why do we have 12 months instead of 30? Okay, that's a whole nother stream. Why we start figuring out why we pick this weird way to do things.
Yeah. We have so many of those because we need working models, because that's one of the things about humanity. We need a working model so that we can function in the reality. And without it, we are almost disempowered in our reality. But it should be a working model. It shouldn't be set in concrete and steel, and we shouldn't have to fight over it, and we shouldn't have to force other people to believe in our model, because we can have a model that someone else doesn't have. Someone else with our model may not be able to function at all in reality, where we are able to function perfectly with our model. It's about honoring ourselves, and that's what we do. We make models of creation all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for all your knowledge and wisdom. And folks, check out the website if you feel called, or just reach out. Reach out to me or Melissa, and we'd be happy to answer any questions and things. And I suppose we will see you next time. Or any final things other than, if you're local, go check out Goddess Lee. She has all kinds of new stuff from the Gem Show. So I will say that I already picked something up. I couldn't resist. I got another skull, which, anyway.
Yeah, and I think there's an option of maybe you just want to check out the first weekend and see if it's something that you feel resonant. Maybe it resonates with you right now, but you're just not sure, and you think, well, it's quite a commitment of time and money and all of that. Well, why don't you just give yourself permission to come to the first weekend and see how it sets with you after that? And see, because when we're talking about these things, that's not really what it's about. It's not really about all this intellectual knowledge. It's about a felt, lived experience. And that's what changes your life is the felt lived experience, not some long litany of exotic terms or philosophies or conceptions. It's your lived experience. Once you've had that experience, that's what creates faith. And faith can change the world.
Yeah. And just to share, I actually have the stones with me. These are Chumpy stones. And my friend Dave Orlasky gave me these as a gift. And I said, how do you use them? He's like, I have no idea. And so I started looking, who could teach me how to use these stones? And I found Zane, but he's like, it's part of an apprenticeship. And I'm like, oh no. So I got to figure out how to hold this whole apprenticeship program just to learn how to use these. And then his first class, when we opened space and we chanted Pachamama, my whole being melted into it. And I'm like, wow, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. It had nothing to do with these. These are just the inspiration to Google someone.
Yeah.
And then once I had the experience, I'm like, I didn't even know I was looking for this, and I found it. And that's my hope for all of you, is that you don't even know you're looking for this. Give it a chance to just have the experience around it, and it's like, whoa.
And see, I know what this tradition has done for Hank. I know what this tradition has done for Melissa. And I know very personally what this tradition has done for me. And it's not the exact same thing for any of us. And what I love so much is watching a person develop and how this tradition expresses itself through them. That's what really brings me life. That's why I continue teaching and continue being out there, because I like to see how this changes people's lives, how they grow from it, and how they step into their own. That's something I've seen with every one of my students, is a step into who they really are. It may take years for them to fully do it, but you can see it. You can watch the steps and you can watch how it guides them, because the tradition guides you. I'm just a holographic projection of this tradition. The tradition itself is something you'll awaken inside of yourself, and it will continue to grow in you for the rest of your life.
Very cool. Thank you. And Nike Kawaiki.
Nike Koyaiki, Sopaiki.
Cool.
I'm just now picturing Zane as Obi-Wan, Star Wars projection. Do your homework.
Yeah.
And just the holographic projection of you for a teacher.
You're gonna have to start every gathering with "Hello there," and off we go.
Give me the robe.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for tuning in. I'll let Melissa push the button because I don't want to boot everybody from the studio by pressing it at the same time.
All at the same time.
So, yeah, but thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next Thursday with another topic. Maybe Zane, maybe no Zane, depending what's going on, and we'll find out next time. But until then, thank you so much. Bye, guys.